The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account that is built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN and get a $25 deposit bonus today. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny the Television. And man, oh man, do we have some good TV today, because Johnny has some thoughts and reactions to the Field of 68 that dropped today. He's maybe a little bit more animated than I am this year. I guess my feeling on it is I don't have anything that makes me enraged, which I don't know if I should be enraged every single year. It's probably good for my health that I'm not. There are some things that I could nitpick, but overall, I don't think that there was any egregious decisions with the committee that, we have this Field of 64 now in the NCAA tournament bracket. I'll read through our, 1 through 16 seeds, as we had Vanderbilt number 1 overall, Texas 2, Arkansas 3, Auburn 4, North Carolina 5, LSU 6, Georgia 7, and Oregon State rounds out the national seeds at 8. Johnny, any thoughts on the top 8 and maybe that top 8 bubble?
Yeah, I have a problem. And
what's the problem?
I'm catching a lot of shit for it, but I don't really care because it's the truth. I mean, you're dealing with completely biased fans. Oregon State, I've said this so many times, RPI is total bullshit. RPI is ruining the game. And then the committee decides when they want to use it and what metrics they want to use this year. And supposedly the word was the RPI wasn't going to matter as much this year as it does in years past. And you get the committee that has new members like every 2 years. So there's no continuity. Every year it changes, and it's really handicapping a game that's growing so much. So I'll put it to you this way. I think overall, I don't have a problem with seeds 1 through 7. Oregon State getting seed 8 is ridiculous. This is a team that took the easy road this year. They didn't play in a conference. They're independent baseball, which is
what did you want? What did you want them to do, though? You say they took the easy road. They took the route that was given to them because the Pac-12 dissolved. There were teams that left the conference and left Oregon State in the dust. So they chose to actually schedule a little bit tougher than the Mountain West, which is where Washington State is currently playing.
They couldn't have joined anybody else?
No, they couldn't have.
Why not?
Because that's not how conference works.
Everybody else was able to bolt.
Did you not follow any of the conference realignment news of the last 2 years?
Sorry,
man. How all
that
that worked?
Must have forgot.
It's about money and series and cities and TV contracts and which schools are going to bring in the most money for those TV contracts. And Oregon State and Washington State, in secluded areas of the country in the Pacific Northwest, they're not like big TV markets. So they got left out of the Big Ten. The SEC took Texas and Oklahoma. So in the Big 12 took the Four Corner schools. So
regardless, their schedule wasn't difficult. And their schedule was outside the 40 in terms of SOS. So their main win, which is a good win, was Irvine. And okay, fine. That's an impressive win. I mean, San Diego, when they played them, they were 2-10 heading into that series. So it ends up being a better win after the fact. That's a retroactive win that ends up looking better. Same thing with Cal Poly. The Iowa win is the trade-off where, Iowa obviously had over 20 wins in a Big Ten conference, in a Power 4 conference, and they get left out in the cold. But they get swept by Oregon. And listen, I don't have – the thing is this. I don't have a problem with Oregon State hosting. That's not an issue. They were a 41-win team, so, that's fine. But top 8 over a team like Oregon or Coastal Carolina that won, I think, 27 Sun Belt games, including their conference tournament. They double championed with the regular season title and the conference tournament. So for me, I don't really understand why they're getting left out in the cold. And what really bothers me is the fact that they had how do you say his name? J.R.
Teagues.
J.R. Teagues. They had him on the selection show today, And when asked of, oh, hey, why did you pick Oregon State over Oregon? He goes on this like 2-minute incoherent ramble about Ole Miss. He's like bringing Ole Miss into the conversation. He provided no light on it. So
Oregon
it really
was not in the same ballpark as Oregon State when it came to RPI. I know you say it's a crock of shit, but it bakes in a lot of games. It weighs heavily road games. It weights road games heavier than home. And Oregon State away from home went 24-10-1.
Okay, here's the problem though. The road game, there's a difference between playing on the road and playing away from home. They played 15 games neutral, which they started their season off with 3 straight tournaments, like mini tournaments.
Yeah, and I applaud them for it.
But otherwise, they played 2 true road games more than home games. So to me, it doesn't make sense why they're getting rewarded with the top 8 seed. I don't buy it. I think teams that proved more, that played in a conference, should be getting the nod.
So
A team like Oregon, who, let's be fair, Oregon was getting real clout to be a top 8 host before the Big Ten tournament. Correct. And then they lose to Nebraska. And then all of a sudden, hey, well, Oregon lost to Nebraska in a tournament that didn't mean anything for them because they already won the conference. They're already going to host, and they should have been a top 8 seed, or at least much more considered over pretty much anybody else. But you know what? We're going to bump them from maybe the 8 seed to the 12 seed or the 13 seed. No, I'm sorry. There was a 12 seed, right? Because UNC is the 5, and they're matching up with UNC.
Yeah.
So I don't agree. I don't like that. I think Oregon State should have probably been the 10.
Yeah. I just don't think that the committee looks at it during the middle of the year like we do. They go once, end of the year, like, what's the final data? And then they look. Us following it throughout the entire year, that's kind of what has us thinking, that some of these decisions could be different, which I think that we know and follow the sport a whole lot more than they do throughout the season. But it is what it is. Oregon State only played 19 true home games this year. Everybody else that is hosting, not even just top 8, hosting, played at least 29. So that's something that I think heavily goes into RPI and why the Beavers are top 8 in RPI and national seed. Oregon State, or the only team that was at 29 home games was Coastal Carolina. Actually, I miscounted this. 27 home games was Coastal Carolina, which I am totally willing to take your angle and give the Chanticleers.
You said they played 27 road games.
Chanticleers played 27 home games. Sorry. Okay. That was the lowest out of any host, was 27. And then Oregon State played 19. I would have been fine with Coastal Carolina getting a top 8. They swept the Sun Belt, regular season tournament title. That's who I would pick the whole argument with.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, whether you agree Oregon should have been the team or not, I think I would definitely put Oregon over Oregon State as the 8th seed. But I think, like I said before, Coastal Carolina has a legitimate bid. Like, I understand they're not playing in a power conference, but that's 27 wins in the Sun Belt. You can argue the Sun Belt should be a Power 5 conference, should be the 5th power conference now, with Pac-12 being dismantled. So to me, it doesn't make any sense. And truthfully, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. The host is, like I said, it's understandable. I have no problem with the Beavers being a host, but now you're giving them a clear path to play through Corvallis to get to Omaha. That is a very big deal. That matters a lot, as historically 70% of regional hosts advance to the super regionals, and almost 70% of super regional hosts advance to Omaha. So that does matter.
Yeah, I have no sympathy towards anybody that, Oregon State has been through more than any other fan base, and that is the doggone truth. I think everything that they endured throughout the last calendar year, academically and sports-wise, They earned it on the baseball field. They played well. They have 41 wins total, only 12 losses, and they get to play home postseason baseball because of it, and you get to reap the rewards. I really do believe that they were dealt a shit hand and did a damn good job with that hand that they were dealt. The rounding out the top 16 seeds, Florida State was the number 9 seed, Ole Miss 10th, Clemson 11th, Oregon 12 seed, Coastal Carolina 13th seed, Tennessee 14, UCLA 15, Southern Miss 16. In the 9 through 16 range, do you have anything that caught your eye that you may have ordered differently?
Overall, I don't think the hosts were egregious. Southern Miss maybe hosting 2 Sunbelt hosts is a surprise. We don't get that very often. And, they had a good year. But, I mean, fair is fair. I think TCU, and you know me, listen, I'm not the biggest advocate for TCU this year, but I think they were more deserving of being a host. And I'm not saying
Southern Miss,
in my opinion. And I'm not saying, it's because, the Big 12 didn't have anybody. I'm saying because TCU, they had a pretty good year, and they played in the 3rd best conference in college baseball.
Southern Miss went to Fort Worth, though, and won 2 of 3 at TCU.
This is true. But I think but here's the other thing. We can't sit here and say, Oregon beat Oregon State 4 times and they don't get the nod over them. Yeah, but then Southern Miss went to TCU and beat them. Like, that's a good win. I'm not saying Southern Miss had a great year. I'm just, that's where I would put.
Oregon State's 7 in RPI and Oregon 16, and then TCU actually has a higher RPI than Southern Miss.
What's their RPI? Do you know?
TCU's 18, Southern Miss is 19.
I mean, listen, it's TCU, in my opinion, would have probably been the pick. I think it just all pure fairness. I think TCU probably got shafted because now they have to go on the road in the first round and they have to go to Corvallis. That would probably be my biggest difference. But other than that, I think the hosts are fine. I think it's pretty much all fair, 90%. But you're asking me what would I change? I would change TCU for Southern Miss. And like I said, it's not like Southern Miss is undeserving. I just find the Horned Frogs a little bit better in that spot as a 16.
I would change out Southern Miss too, but the team that I would put in is Georgia Tech. They won the ACC regular season. First off, this year was the first year in history that the Sun Belt has 2 hosts, and I don't think that the Sun Belt was that good this year. They don't have a 3rd bid. They only have 2 teams in the NCAA tournament total, and both of them are hosting. So make sense of this. We have 2 Sun Belt hosts. That Sun Belt team that was on the bubble in Troy didn't get in. Yet there was a Big 12 team or 2 that were making arguments and cases to be a host, TCU and Arizona. Neither one of them get that host. Instead, 3 Big 12 teams off the bubble get in the last 4 in. To me, that definitely seems like there's some horse trading going on between some athletic directors on the committee. I would have preferred Georgia Tech to have been in as a 40-win team in the ACC with a regular season championship and Danny Hall in his final season as head coach there. That would have probably been my pick. But let's talk about that bubble. I hinted at it a little bit because we do have 3 Big 12 teams in the last 4 in. Arizona State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and then USC. Noticeably, 2 teams that I thought were firmly on the bubble. One team that I left out was Miami, but also I had Kentucky on the bubble too. And they both don't land in the last 4 in. They're comfortably in. And the first 4 out is Southeastern Louisiana, Troy, UConn, Virginia. Noticeably here, 2 teams that didn't land were Xavier and UT Rio Grande, who actually had a higher RPI, much higher RPI than Southeastern Louisiana at 54th here. Johnny, on the bubble, any opinions here of how the committee did with the situation this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're always going to complain. You're always going to find something to complain about. And truthfully, I think UVA got hosed. And this is, again, same conversation where RPI is just a detriment. And I know it's supposed to make things easier, but it doesn't, because it's just so inconsistent. And it's weighted. I feel like it's weighted differently across different years. And Virginia had so this is where I'm at. Virginia had 16 wins in the ACC. 16-11 is a pretty good year, especially considering how they started out. Obviously, they lose the Florida State series because of the tragedy in Tallahassee. And, obviously that's more important than baseball. But for Virginia, that kills them, because that would have helped their RPI. Just by playing Florida State would have helped their RPI. But if they had won a game, now we're possibly talking about them not even being on the bubble and just being straight in. Whereas they had more wins than Miami did. They had more wins than what Miami had. And Miami still made it in. Virginia beat Miami head-to-head, by the way. So I don't really understand why the Hurricanes are a comfortable entry into the tournament at 15-14 when Virginia went 16-11 and beat them outright. So to me, that's where it just doesn't make sense. And on paper, you're gonna be like, wow, they had 23 better RPI, but this is the point. This is the problem of why it is a flawed system. And Kentucky, you have to correct me, I think Kentucky had 19 losses of Q1. Is that correct?
Let's find out. I'll find it in 2 seconds. It was 8-19 in quad one.
They went 8-19 in quad one games. I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing here? Kentucky was a team that, I get it, they're in the SEC. They're going to get a little bit more favoritism than any other conference. But to me, that's wrong. And maybe it just goes right back to, Kentucky won 13 games in the SEC, and that's the benchmark pretty much every year. So those would probably be the two teams I really think should not have been in over Virginia. I know we're talking about RPI. UConn had a pretty strong RPI, and they got hosed. But
they did.
In all fairness, were we really going to let three teams in the tournament from the Big East stealing bids from some of these other Power 4 schools?
But only one got in.
No, I know, but that was the conversation all of yesterday, all weekend was, are we going to let all these Big East teams in? I mean, truthfully,
I would have.
I think there only needs to be one Big East team. But because here's an issue, right? And we talk about this in football. Remember when Jordan Travis got hurt and Florida State was 13-0?
Yeah.
But FSU fans were going nuts because they're undefeated, and they got left out of the playoff because their quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, they should have been in.
They met the metrics. They met everything. They were undefeated. But they got left out. Why? Because they lost their quarterback, and the committee knew Florida State wouldn't be as competitive against the other teams in the playoffs. Well, what are we doing here?
Florida State should have been.
I mean, it's what?
I'm dying on the hill that Florida State should have been in.
Yeah, but this is the point here. Same thing for college baseball. We're letting these teams in and giving these auto bids to teams that were 5 games below 500 in these slapdick mid majors and only got in because they won their shitty conference tournament, and they're not even going to be a threat. They're going to probably go 2 and barbecue, most of them. Whereas you get some of these other teams that are on the bubble that are going to make for much more entertaining product and have an actual chance to make a run. And I'm just throwing them out there. I mean, they didn't deserve to get in, but Texas A&M, just for instance, if A&M got in, that they're a threat to win it all, and they would have made for good TV. But instead, you have Joe Jerkoff State that won their conference tournament at 24-29, but they won a few games against also pretty bad competition. But you know what? We're going to put them as a 4 seed in some powerhouse regional where they're just going to get 2 and barbecued out, and it's not even going to be competitive. So the overall system there has to change, man. The game of college baseball is evolving every year, and it's evolving quickly. So what was working 5-10 years ago, to me, it doesn't work anymore. And the times have got to catch up with where we're at right now.
You and I don't see eye to eye on that, I guess. I've watched college baseball the last 2 years, and I've seen Oral Roberts in College World Series, and I've seen Evansville one game away from the College World Series, and they had beaten the number 1 overall seed Tennessee, who had won the national championship last year. I think anything can happen on a diamond. So
it could. What's the likelihood? I mean, Oral Roberts and
I judge it based on how the game is played on the field. I'm not living in a world of hypotheticals, which is why I think Virginia should have been in. They had 16 wins and 3 less ACC games than everybody else. But also, I had 2 teams wrong on my bracketology. I had Virginia in, and I had Troy in, and I had Arizona State out with Miami out. Virginia, I had looked at 16 ACC wins compared to Miami 15, with a series win at Miami where they swept them. And then Troy, I thought, we played in a conference that was valued because there were 2 top 16 seeds. So I would have had Troy in there. So yeah, that's thoughts on the bubble. When we come back on the other side here, we're going to get into some of the draws for some of the stronger teams that we're kind of looking at overall. We have betting odds out right now, so we'll run through those opening lines and we'll look at some of these draws because the schedule for this week, we'll have some regional previews individually, regional shows, and then also we'll be doing a bracket futures and picks episode Wednesday night, and on Thursday night it'll be game 1 picks. So for game 1 opening round of the NCAA tournament, those Friday games. But right now, the Sports Gambling Podcast guys are going to be ripping packs live on air next Monday night. They'll be breaking a case of Panini Prisms with DAPS, and you can get 10% off your favorite team with the promo code SGPN. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/break to get in on the action. You can also sign up to be included in the college experience SGPN bracket contest and challenge. We'll be running one through d1baseball.com. Our group, the winner will get a $250 gift card to the SGPN store on sportsgamblingpodcast.com. So the link will be included in the YouTube description, the podcast description. It's not there yet because I haven't created the league, but if you're listening to this on a Tuesday or Wednesday when you're listening to this show, it should be there. So go over there, check that out for sure. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost. It is the first ever bank account that is built for bettors that's ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. There are no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards today using a 100% approval for all betting deposits on the platform. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN and deposit $25, and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That is edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. They are going long right now on their Pick'em platform for the NBA playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in game 1, and the longer that the series goes, the bigger that the bonus is going to get. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN for to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia. And now we're going to run through some of these opening lines and odds on the regionals. We'll walk through kind of what we think of the regional, what kind of strength we have, maybe opinions on these type of regionals, tough, weak, and possibly a pick or two on some of these opening lines before we really dive in and research these well. So, Johnny, what'd you say?
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself. We got some good markets up here. We got now to make the College World Series back on DraftKings after a hiatus for a couple weeks.
There we go. In the Nashville regional, this is home of the number 1 overall seed right now, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's minus 200, Louisville plus 380, East Tennessee State plus 425, and Wright State is 20-1 to get out of the Nashville regional. initial gut feelings and reactions to this regional, Johnny. Strong week. Who do you think, odds wise, what's a fair price?
Vanderbilt, man, the number one seed it's crazy almost. It's like we had Texas, LSU this whole year, and Vandy, finished hot. They won the tournament. We had Vandy to win the SEC tournament last week, so that was a nice one. But Vanderbilt, man, it's weird because they're like the worst, best team you've ever seen, and I think we've watched a fair amount of college baseball this year to probably say the Commodores are maybe the fifth best team in the SEC in terms of talent and roster and all that. But the Commodores, man, with the 1 seed, they have one of the easiest paths to Omaha. That is not an exaggeration. Their regional should be a gimme. I would honestly say East Tennessee State could be the sleeper here. I don't think they'll win, but that is a very interesting team. ETSU can hit the shit out of the ball. So at plus 550, it's interesting. I still think Vanderbilt's going to win. I think they're probably going to end up winning that super regional as well. So I would probably make it, it's about minus 270 now. I think I'd probably make it somewhere between minus three bills, minus 350.
Yeah, you pointed it out. I think ETSU is more of a player than Louisville in the regional. Yeah. I really think that the Cardinals struggle to pitch. They struggle on the mound, and it's not necessarily their fault when it came to roster building. They're just decimated by injuries. You look at Patrick Forbes preseason; he looked incredible against Texas, got hurt, and then he's come back and he hasn't really been the same. Peter Michael was their number 2. He got hurt, and then he kind of got out of sync with the weekend rotation, has been kind of bouncing back from reliever and starting pitcher. They've got a couple of freshmen that they've been starting recently. It just hasn't, gone perfectly to plan for Louisville on the mound. And to me, I think your runner-up is ETSU in this pool. And I think Vandy has – I think this is a favorable draw for a number 1 seed. They do have a rival in the regional in Louisville, but I think they should be able to handle it. So overall, I think – it is not a terrible draw for Vandy. We move on to the 2nd seed. Actually, let's do the 16. Let's do Hattiesburg and Southern Miss because the Golden Eagles are plus 120, Alabama plus 175, Miami 400 plus 400, and Columbia is 10-1 to get out of Hattiesburg. Johnny, to me, this regional one, I think it's got some outstanding uniforms, plenty of different color palettes here. But Southern Miss is going to have their hands full.
I agree. Southern Miss, to me, they're good for the Sun Belt. And we were just talking about it. The Sun Belt was down this year. I mean, in years past, you have maybe 4 teams that are legitimate threats to make it up into the tournament. And you just really had 2 teams kind of controlling the pace with Coastal and Southern Miss. And listen, I think the Golden Eagles are solid. I don't love their offense. I don't think it can consistently carry throughout a tournament format like this. I know Nick Monastery was good. JB Middleton's been a dog this year. He's been a top 10 pitcher all year. So that's probably where that would come into play. And I'd wonder if you're Southern Miss, what do you do against Columbia? Do you throw maybe Matt Adams game 1 and save JB Middleton for the winner of Miami-Bama? Because if you do that, then you're in really, really good shape. But overall, man, I think I'm going to take the SEC team here. Alabama is a talented team. They've just been kind of sputtering and up and down all year because they're inconsistent. They've dealt with some injuries, but I think they're a pretty solid team. When Bama's playing their game, they're tough to beat. And their offense, when it's clicking, it's tough. And they have enough pitching. Zane Adams has been really good in the second half of the year. You have Tyler Fay, who's been pretty solid since moving into the Friday night role. You have Riley Quick in the Saturday role. You have Carson Osmer as the closer. I think Alabama at plus.
You got the Southern Miss coach mixed up with the reliever.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. So many names to remember, but I think I like Alabama here at plus money. This is a live region, man. It really is.
Yeah, I could see any of those top 3 seeds coming out. No disrespect to Columbia. I know they've been frisky in regionals when they've qualified for the NCAA tournament in the past. But yeah, I'm also kind of looking at Alabama as a little live plus 175 on a 2 seed. I would like it to be a little bit higher, but at the same time, man, that's what you get for. I mean, Southern Miss is a 16 seed, so they weren't going to be minus money. So, but yeah, Miami, I think has. They got hot at one period in time in the season. Was it just, a blip in the radar positively, or can they be able to string some of that could stretch together in the postseason here? But yeah, I look at Alabama and I think that's a really, really dangerous SEC 2 seed.
Yep.
You get a couple of those every single year.
Yep.
They are probably my favorite SEC 2 seed because I was honestly eyeing Ole Miss as my favorite SEC 2 seed, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and obviously they played themselves into a 1. So I think I got to go with Alabama. It's just a very nice mix of a solid lineup and a good enough pitching staff to get the job done in a regional. And I just think that this is going to be an outstanding atmosphere for college baseball. Hattiesburg is going to deliver, and I think Southern Miss is going to play for a regional final, but they're going to have their hands full. So that's my take on that region. We'll move along here to the next regional in Tallahassee. We have Florida State as the 1, and they currently, I hate how DK has no rhyme or reason of how they've ordered this. Tallahassee, Florida State's minus 110, Northeastern's plus 250, Mississippi State's plus 250, and then Bethune-Cookman at 55-1. Johnny, is it Florida State's region to lose?
Absolutely. Northeastern has had an unbelievable year, but they really haven't had to play anybody. This was the Northeastern team I was looking for last year when I had an absolute Hail Mary 2,500-1 ticket on. But obviously, a year early is unfortunate. I don't think Mississippi State's that good, man. I really don't. They have a couple guys on offense. Ace Reese has been a dog this year. Pico Khan's a stud. But I don't love Mississippi State. I didn't like their roster coming in. Northeastern is interesting. They're definitely live. But the problem is, if Mississippi State is going to be throwing Pico Khan game 1, which is more than likely, that's a tough out for Northeastern. That's a tough SEC arm to handle, even though Pico Khan has definitely been not as good over this last 3-4 week stretch. Florida State, man, this is Florida State's region, and you're getting a bargain minus 125. I think what's happening here is a great case of the sports books not really being up to date about some of these mid majors like a Northeastern. All they're seeing is 48 wins, high RPI, a lot of juice as a mid major. They don't really know Northeastern, so they're giving them a lot of respect here. And Florida State, for their many faults, they still have an absolute freak on the mound in Jamie Arnold. They have an offense that's outperformed a lot of people, including mine, expectations, and they have a really good weekend rotation. The bullpen is still a huge problem, but at home in Tallahassee, I think this is their region, and you're getting a bargain.
I also circle Northeastern as probably the more live potential advancement out of this regional than Mississippi State. I also am kind of buying into the backstretch of that season. The reason why they fired Lamonis mid-year was because upcoming they had Kentucky, Ole Miss, Missouri, and that was kind of the stretch that they got hot in, and then they lost to Texas A&M in the SEC tournament. Yeah, I mean, very solid point about Pico Khan going up against Northeastern in the first round game. Northeastern's got a really solid rotation. Will Jones probably gets the ball in that first game against Mississippi State, if it would be kind of up to my projection. And if that's the case, I definitely think that Northeastern's still got a chance to continue this crazy win streak that they've been on since early April. So, yeah, Northeastern would be my look. Am I looking to bet Florida State minus money here? No, because I do kind of respect both Northeastern and Hail State as quality opponents. That's just not something that I'm firing day one prior to doing deeper research on some of the the teams and possible matchups here once we start seeing some press conferences with coaches and if they tip their hand on any sort of pitching. The Corvallis Regional is the 8th seed that's paired up with the 9 seed Florida State. The Beavers are plus 105, TCU's plus 150, USC plus 500, St. Mary's 18-1. Johnny, you were pretty negative on Oregon State getting a top 8 seed. Do you think that TCU or USC are live in this regional?
I think TCU is live. I think here's the one problem is because TCU had to draw the 2 seed. Now they're going to face USC, who's not bad. They're definitely live. They have pitching. They have Ethan Hedges as their star bat. That kid's a stud. They're going to have to throw Tommy Laporte game 1. That's the problem because they're going to burn their best arm and one of the top arms in the whole conference trying to get past USC to get to that 1-0 matchup. But I think Oregon State is a better team than TCU. But I'm not betting them at minus money here because the Horned Frogs have been playing really good baseball. And their pitching is, in my opinion, probably a little better than Oregon State has. I think Oregon State's got more high octane. You know, Dax Whitney's a freak, dude. Dax Whitney's going to be a very high draft pick in a couple of years. Ethan Kleinschmidt, when he was humming, was good. Keljo now out of the pen. Eric Segura. I mean, it's good. And, you know, the thing I have with Oregon State, though, and I've had the same problem all year with them, they are a team that is just kind of built around 5 or 6 guys carrying the load. Probably 4 guys on offense, 2 pitchers to really shoulder that burden. So if they're not picking up the slack and the other guys have to do it, that's where they're going to run into issues. I mean, I think Ava Arquette is clearly the best player in this region here. And, you know, Oregon State's definitely a very strong team. But I'm not betting them at minus money, even at home. I think TCU plus 140 is appealing here.
Did the odds change here? I'm looking at plus 105, plus 150. Do I need to give this
page
a refresh? DraftKings.
DraftKings doesn't have them out yet.
They've got regional odds.
They do? Not on not for me. I'm on FanDuel.
You're also in New York, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Why?
Maybe that's the difference. All right. Well, you're reading FanDuel and I'm reading DraftKings, even the better, right? I mean, shop around because find your best price. If you're liking something that is out there, I would definitely shop around before you get down. TCU, you mentioned that you kind of like their pitching a little bit more. They have a Tommy Laporte that Oregon State doesn't have. But with some of the injuries and underperformance from Cademan Parker recently, they didn't even give him the ball. I don't know if that was injury or, like I said, underperformance. TCU looks all of a sudden thin on the mound. You know, they had the 2 preseason injuries on the mound to, you know, really important arms. One of them being Ben Abelt, who was going to be their ace. And all of a sudden, to me, TCU offense really carried the day in the Big 12 tournament when a lot of people were watching the Horned Frogs. And that's all fine and dandy and cute. And it got them to be like pretty attractive. And a lot of people arguing for them to be a host. But all of a sudden, when they were in a pitcher's duel in the championship game against Arizona's number 3 in Smith Bailey, they put up 1 run, which wasn't good enough. But also, I thought the pitching got a little thin. I think that Oregon State at home is going to be enough that they get through. You mentioned that lineup. It is loaded. They've got like six dudes batting over 300. And then Kleinschmidt and Whitney are very good arms that are young, but definitely capable. And being at home helps. You don't want to be on the road with young arms. So the next regional here that we have on this side of the bracket, North Carolina, and we've got Chapel Hill Regional is UNC minus 260, Oklahoma plus 340, Nebraska plus 750, Holy Cross 25-1. This is North Carolina's regional to lose, right, John?
Absolutely. You know, the one challenge would have been if I'm if I'm Oklahoma, I probably would gamble because you need something special to happen to get out of this region. I had UNC to be a Omaha 8 preseason all year. Like I've loved UNC. I went through some moments where like I wanted to punch myself over their poor performance on offense, but UNC's really starting to click right now. Their pitching has been strong all year. I think their bullpen's pretty good. It's not as good as last year. Last year it was just lights out, especially behind Dalton Pence, who was just money every time he went in the game. Their offense took a while to get going. The one question I have for their offense, like it's been very streaky. We've seen when it's cold, you can't buy a run. But these last few weeks, they've been on fire, and they've just been pumping 10 runs, 12 runs, 14 runs in the ACC final tournament game. I like UNC a lot here. So if I'm Oklahoma, and by the way, it's $3.50 on FanDuel. So like it's frustrating. I can't see DraftKings right now. I don't know what's going on. But if I'm Oklahoma and Skip Johnson, you need something special to happen to win this region, to steal this, right? I would consider maybe throwing Cade Crossland game 1 against Nebraska. I might do it because if you win that game, then you save Kybone for game 2 against UNC. Get a little ballsy, Noah. I think you got to get ballsy here.
I don't ever condone throwing off, ever. Like, even if you're a 1 seed against nobody Tech, I'd throw your ace. Because even if you don't throw your ace against the 4 seed, now the 4 seed is like, oh, they're not taking us seriously. That's a chip on their shoulder, and they show up to play. No, I throw your ace. You stick to the weekend rotation. You have to. That's how I attack it. Nothing's ever free. Nothing is ever free. If you are up 10-0 in the 4th inning, that's when you pull Kybone after 40 pitches. He comes back on Sunday or Monday and throws in a regional final. That's how I attack it. So
it's worth a shot.
But yeah, I think it's North Carolina's regional to lose. Honestly, like Nebraska's offense isn't strong enough to me, at least. And a lot of people still are buying in that Oklahoma pitching staff. To me, it's been a disappointment throughout the year. So Witherspoon kind of carries it on Fridays, and I think that they're not really a threat longer into the weekend. That's just me. The Eugene regional pairs up with the Chapel Hill regional. Oregon's -175, Arizona +300, Cal Poly 450, Utah Valley 25-1. Johnny, the Ducks, they're the 15th overall or the 12th overall seed. They get a red hot 2 seed in Arizona, who won the Big 12 tournament. They get one of the higher RPI seed threes out there. And then the Utah Valley team that can really swing it. Do the Ducks survive?
I think they do. We've seen Arizona do this before. They get hot at the end of the year. Honestly, it's happened last year. They get hot at the end of the year, and they go into the tournament, and they're in a wild, wild west. And I think Oregon they're a better roster than everybody else here. Arizona, their pitching, they have talent, but they don't have like the guy. You know, Oregon's got Grayson Grinzel. That's the guy. And truthfully, man, the offense is deeper for Oregon than it is for Arizona. I think their pitching is deeper. I'll say, the Oregon bullpen is a little uneasy for my taste. I don't think it's as surefire as it could be. But the big thing is, I just feel like the Ducks are more talented. I think I saw somewhere, it might have been Bet Rivers, so I'm going to take a look at that real quick. And some of this stuff might have moved. I took a peek this afternoon and in lieu of preparation of this show. But I think I saw somewhere along the lines that Oregon was under -200. And they were. They're -177 on Bet Rivers. I think
they're -175 on DK.
Yeah.
Too.
So, God damn it, I wish I could see DK right now. It's so annoying. So I think that's a fair price. I think Arizona being in the +250 range is fair. It's not unbelievable to see Arizona go into Eugene and pull this one out. I just think the Ducks are a better top to bottom team. I mean, for them to win, talk about the Wildcats, they would need Mason White to continue to do what he's did in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah.
We went nuts.
That kid's been unbelievable, and he's been everything that I thought he was going to be. Missing Brendan Summerhill for an entire month was not according to plan. Otherwise, they may have been a host because they were really only 3 or so games out of that hosting conversation. It was the RPI that kind of dragged them down. You win a series against a Baylor who comes to town. You win a series against a Utah who comes to town. You win a series at Texas Tech. One of those 3 series goes your way. Arizona may be hosting, and I may look like the smartest guy in the world with Arizona as my preseason national championship pick with how hot they've been playing right now. But heading to Eugene, where PK Park can get lit, it's going to be a tough road atmosphere for my Wildcats. So that's going to be a tough decision. That's still weighing on my shoulders, and I haven't really decided yet whether I'm sticking with the Cats there or not against their former Pac-12 foe. Now we head down to the Conway Regional, where Coastal Carolina is the 1 seed. They're plus 105, Florida plus 130, East Carolina plus 650, and we have Fairfield 15-1. The Stags are winning this regional, right, John?
No. This is probably one of the more lit regions I think we have here. The Florida Gators, man, you can get them at least on Bet Rivers at plus 125. It's plus 115 on FanDuel. I think the books got it right with it being in damn near coin flip between Coastal and Florida. So here's the tough part about this region. Coastal's had a great year this year. They're at home. They've played great at home. And for the first time in a long time, they have a legitimate weekend rotation. Jacob Morrison, Cam Fluke, Riley Eichhoff, they've all been marvelous this year. And that's something that they just have not had. And in lieu of not having that, they always had a top 10 offense across most major categories. And it's kind of flipped. Like their offense is slightly above average this year. It's still good, but it's not like demon time. And you look at Florida, man. Florida's also got a legitimate weekend rotation. They're battling injuries, but they are so hot. Kevin O'Sullivan's been there, done that a million times, back-to-back Omaha bids. They're playing great baseball. They have the pedigree. They know what it takes. They still got a good roster despite some of the key injuries they've had. I think Florida's going to take it, man. I think Florida's going to make a run this year.
Oh, so everybody talks about how Florida is super hot this year. And look, I agree. I can't deny that they are really hot, but I also think that, it's kind of been a perfect mix of they won some important close games against really good teams. And they also had 2 series against Missouri and South Carolina. They also played Mississippi State in those 6 SEC wins, series wins, I should say. And just as a Florida fan, it feels like everybody always talks about Sullivan. Oh, Sullivan is money in the super regionals. Well, you have to win the regional first. And they don't play many of them on the road. I know they won last year in Stillwater. They battled through the losers bracket there. I don't know if this team can battle through the losers bracket. This team doesn't have a Jack Caglione who's going to carry them offensively in an offensive regional if it breaks out to be that way. And game 1, Ethan Norby could go out there and shove, and the Gators are easily in the losers bracket right away. That's kind of how I think the way that first game plays out, whatever happens between Florida and East Carolina is really going to dictate this regional, because Florida cannot afford to play 5 games in a weekend. I think they need to keep it 3 or 4. Coastal Carolina, again, home field advantage. Like we've always said in college sports, it's extremely hard to win on the road. It really is. So paired up with the Conway Regional is the Auburn Regional. And Auburn is currently minus 200 on DraftKings. NC State's plus 250, Stetson's plus 750, and Central Connecticut State is 25-1. Johnny, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on NC State 25 plus 250 and a little bit on Stetson plus 750 to get out of this regional.
I knew you were going to. I know you were going to go Stetson. You said that in our preseason show that you like them to get there.
Yeah, it got really close. It got really hairy. They didn't even get to finish the conference tournament in the Atlantic Sun. They were given the automatic qualifier bid because they were the highest finish in the conference over Florida Gulf Coast, because FGCU beat them. They were winning by 1 run in the 7th inning when it got rain delayed and ultimately postponed, and they couldn't finish the games. But yeah, Stetson, I think, is a quality team. I think there's actually a lot of talent there. They had the second most players in the Cape Cod League last year out of any team. The only other team that had more was Vanderbilt, and they are the number 1 overall seed this year. So I think Stetson's very dangerous. And NC State, I also think, is a very solid and balanced team that always plays their best baseball in June under Elliott Avent. So I think they have a really good pitching staff too. They've got a good 6 arms that they can fully trust. And that's my biggest question about Auburn, the entire year. I know they played a super tough schedule, but I don't think anybody is elite. Sure, you could say in point metrics to me that Auburn's played the toughest schedule or one of the toughest, but I truly don't believe that anybody is a world beater out there this season. And that if you are put into the losers bracket by any team and have to battle through, I think that a lot of teams are going to struggle this year. There are teams that really struggle to form a 3-man rotation. Stetson and North Carolina State are not those teams, in my opinion. That's why I think they're both live in the Auburn Regional. Johnny, do you agree with me?
I do. Listen, obviously it would be no surprise if Auburn ran through this region at home, but I think, let's be real here, Auburn, their offense is great, and that was never going to be the question this year. It was their pitching. Samuel Dutton really surprised almost everybody. I mean, barely used in any sort of high leverage situation at LSU the last couple of years, transfers into Auburn and is given the keys to the Ferrari for the Friday night role. And he's done more than I think anybody would have asked. He's been magnificent as a Friday night guy. A couple bad starts to end the year, but overall Dutton's been awesome. But like you said, man, the question's always been what else about the rest of their pitching staff? They don't have anybody reliable in the Saturday or Sunday role. They don't have anybody that's truly reliable in the bullpen. So it's really a fly-by-night approach. Hey, let's just go with the hot hand, see who can stack outs and just keep this thing going. NC State, I don't like this year. I didn't like NC State coming in. I really don't think they're that good, but the truth is they are a team that is just always dangerous in June. They always find a way. And the one strength of the NC State Wolfpack this year was their pitching. So I think in terms of who's got the best pitching, it's going to be the Wolfpack. And their offense is okay enough to carry them through. And you're getting a plus 320 on FanDuel here. So it's a no-doubter for me that I would take NC State with that kind of plus money, because if they get past Stetson, and Stetson's a good team. Stetson's absolutely live. I just think NC State's a little bit more battle-tested. They play the better competition all year. And if they get past this game, they're going to have a pitching advantage over Auburn in game 2. Dutton's most likely going to throw against Central Con, and that leaves it very, very wide open in games 2 and 3.
I agree. I agree a lot. Before we move on to
let me ask you.
Go ahead.
I know your feeling on this. Auburn's going to play Central Connecticut game 1. You're definitely still throwing Dutton. Got to get that first win, right? No way you're punting that game.
I agree, yeah.
Excuse me, not punting that game, but maybe throwing somebody else in that game. So
throwing off.
Yeah. So that opens up the door. I mean, honestly, it opens up the door for the winner of Stetson NC State.
It does. I agree.
Interesting.
That's why I'm sprinkling a little bit on both. And I didn't even know that you could find a better price on NC State there. So
God bless.
Good call. That's FanBolt and FanDuel. So
God bless, brother.
Perfect. Before we get to the right side of the bracket here and we finish up the rest of these regional gut feelings and reactions to the bracket getting revealed, I want to tell you that Rhythm is partnered up with SGPN, and they have a perfect platform that is backed by AI picks and props dominate the NBA playoffs with PGA, MLB, and WNBA models. Rhythm knows that you're going to love their platform, so that's why they are giving you a 7-day free trial. Rhythm has some amazing deals that are going on right now. 25% off a monthly subscription with promo code SGPN25, and you can get a 50% off annual subscription with promo code SGPN50. That is Rhythm spelled RITHMM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And SGPN has teamed up with Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs during your stay. The winner will receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. That is 6 Double King rooms. They will hold their draft at a cabana at Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit. You will get limo transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party at the Legacy Club when you arrive for the entire league, a reservation at the world's largest sports book with a $500 beverage credit for the entire league, a 2-hour open bar package for the league at Overhang Bar. The contest will run from May 5th to June 30th. Go over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa to enter today. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. CIRCA. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by mybookie.ag, as MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the NBA playoffs. For the true D-Gens, the MyBookie money bag is also available for you, as MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of different locations, and it's easy to deposit, and you get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Head over to mybookie.ag, promo code TCE SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. That is terms and conditions apply. That is mybookie.ag, promo code TCE SGPN. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, joined alongside Johnny Venezia, as we are kind of giving our gut feelings, gut reactions to the NCAA Baseball Tournament bracket that was just released today, running through a lot of the regionals and the opening lines for the regional winners. And we're going to go to the top right portion of the bracket on paper, and that is the Austin Regional, where you'll find the number 2 overall seed, Texas, hosting UTSA, who's plus 280, Kansas State plus 500, and Houston Christian at 35-1. The Longhorns on DraftKings are minus 185. Johnny, your opinions here? I mean, we've got a frisky in-state mid-major team in the Roadrunners, and Kansas State, who went to Super Regional last year. Your thoughts?
So Texas was another preseason Omaha 8 team for me. And I really don't like to jump the ship. When I make a prediction, in the preseason or, maybe the midseason, I like to stick to it. And I think Texas is a team that is still dangerous. I have some questions about them. Ever since they lost Jared Spencer, their pitching went from airtight to a little sus. I think Jim Schlossnagle needs to make the move and get Rouge Riojas out of the Friday role. That cannot happen. Luke Harrison needs to be their Friday guy. He's their best pitcher left in the starting staff, because their game 3 starter is a real toss-up. Personally, I would like to see Max Grubbs get in that Sunday role. That was a guy who was a Friday night starter for them last year. I mean, it'll take a little bit of hit for the bullpen, but I think they have enough arms to get through. That being said,
you might see Cade Bing. You might see Cade Bing.
Cade Bing's got the stuff. It's been a mixed bag for him, though.
Yeah.
UTSA is interesting. FanDuel, they're 3-1. I think it's worth the sprinkle, but ultimately, I think the road to Omaha is going to run through Austin, man. I find Texas with Jim Schlossnagle in this situation to be somebody that's going to step up. They've had a fantastic year. Their offense should be way better. Max Ballou's back. I know it's been a down year for their lineup, but I think we might see a vintage Jim Schlossnagle-led team here.
If that's the case, my road to Omaha might run through Texas, because I will be at a Super Regional in person. Just haven't decided which one.
Hello.
Texas is in consideration for that. But yeah, like if they move Riojas out of the game 1, which ironically, Johnny, now that we are to the postseason, like I know I had that entire spiel of don't throw off. I would never throw off. Ruger Riojas, we all don't view as their best pitcher, but he's been the Friday guy recently. Keep him there. And then you throw Luke Harrison against UTSA or Kansas State in game 2. But if they move Riojas, he's a UTSA transfer. That would be electric Saturday. Feed me that.
I think it's just I think it's better for them anyway. Riojas was dealing as the Sunday guy. I think I think obviously you're getting different matchups when you're the Sunday guy, but it's a lot less pressure. The Friday night guy, the lights are on. You're game 1. It's up to you to set the tone. Like that is a different mental mindset than being the game 3 guy. So for me, moving Riojas from the Sunday role to the Friday role never made sense. I would have slotted everybody up. I would have moved Harrison to the 1, Riojas to the 2, and then listen, you wanted to try Flores at the 3. That's not really working out. Then come in with either Grubbs or maybe Cade Bing. But Riojas, I think it's interesting in the pure fact that, hey, listen, Riojas is probably your second best arm, and if you get a win there, then you go with Harrison against likely UTSA in game 2. That probably lines up a little bit better. But Riojas revenge game, and the fact is, I think he'll be much better in that start because he's, it's a little less pressure than taking game 1 of a region.
Dilly Daggers, I only really used Road to Omaha because Johnny had mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that's a perfect segue for me to mention I might be at Texas for a super regional. Tennessee, Arkansas would be a hell of a super regional. Honestly, I haven't even seriously given thought to super regionals and where I'd possibly be going. I got to see those super regionals before I make a decision, right? So, but yeah, this Austin regional I think is very interesting, and I could see Kansas State being a player too, but I think UTSA is probably the team that I circle as that runner-up, with Texas probably controlling their own destiny. The Los Angeles regional is backed up in the super for Texas. UCLA is the current favorite. They are the 1 seed here at -120. Arizona State is +290. UC Irvine at +310. And then you can find Fresno State at 15-1. Johnny, I'm curious your feeling because I guess I haven't gauged it well enough. Do you like this UCLA team? Are they your favorite to get out of the regional?
No. This might be the best region, though, of all 16. I think this is going to be the most.
You think it's the most competitive?
I think this is the most competitive. I think 1 through 4 can win. Fresno State's no slouch, bro.
Dude, Fresno State's the 4 seed that I circled as they're alive.
If there's a 4 seed that has the best chance of getting out of a region, it's Fresno State. I think this is going to be an awesome series or awesome region. I can't wait. I circled it as soon as it came out. Every year we get 1 or 2 of these where it's like completely competitive balance across the board. And this is probably the best region. We got it last year with DBU, Arizona, I think West Virginia, Grand Canyon, if I'm not mistaken. Shit, bro. Memory's hazy, but that
so it was that region. That was the region of that was the region of death.
That region was sick. That region was awesome. Dallas Baptist couldn't fucking get out of their own way. It was a great region. So that has the chance to be this year. UCLA, I think is they're a fun story, right? They haven't been good in a few years. They finally transfer out to the Big Ten, and they all of a sudden they're a 22 or whatever win team in the Big Ten. And hey, listen, UCLA baseball's back, maybe. Rock Chalowski's been unbelievable this year. He was good as a freshman last year, but he's made a big jump this year. He's sitting at, I want to say, 23 home runs. He is, in my opinion, this is a guy who should be getting legitimate Golden Spikes votes. I wish
he's a contender.
I wish I took he's a semifinalist, but there's semifinalists that have no chance of winning. That's not Rock Chalowski. He absolutely has a chance. I wish I took a piece on him at 80-1 a month ago, but he's a 1/126 candidate. Absolutely at near the top of that board. Mulavai Lavu, AJ Salgado, Those are probably the three guys for them in that offense.
That was a valiant effort on Levu's name, by the way. Hell of a job. You almost
got it.
Yeah.
Somebody that likes to pronounce names however the fuck he wants. I think I did a pretty good job there. But
yeah, I believe it's Molovai Levu.
Close. UCLA's offense really isn't that good. Let's be fair. They have those three guys that are really carrying the burden for the whole team. They're more pitch first, but it's weird because they don't have like any dominant pitching except for our boy Wylan Moss. Wylan Moss is a stud. This is a guy that I would circle as a high draft pick. I don't know if he's a freshman. I think he's a freshman, so I don't know if he's draft eligible next year. So maybe 2027 if that's his draft eligibility year. But he's been a little bit shaky as of late. He was a Friday night guy for a while in the second half, and then they bumped him. So I don't think UCLA's got the juice. I think because they're hosting and because they're a big name, books have them out of respect as the favorite in their own region. But the price is fair. I mean, on FanDuel, it's -140, -145. Irvine and Arizona State are interesting. You know how I feel about my ASU Sun Devils.
I do.
They're +360 on FanDuel. Arizona State is live. If their bullpen holds up and Ben Jacobs doesn't walk 6 or 7 guys in an outing, they have a chance because, in my opinion, they have the best offense in this region. I think the most balanced, though, is Irvine. Irvine was going to be a host. They were a shoo-in to be a host, and then they just fell apart the last few weeks of the season. This Irvine team is dangerous. Their pitching was a disaster to start the year, and they've turned it around. They put Riley Kelly in the Friday role. They put Trevor Hansen in the Saturday role. I think Ryder Brooks is still the Sunday guy. And they have the big West pitcher of the year, Ricky Ojeda, he's a Swiss Army knife. He's so dangerous. He's so reliable. And their offense is pretty goddamn good. They have 4 or 5 legitimate bats. I think Irvine, you're getting them at +290 or bigger in some cases. That's my pick for the winner of this region is Irvine. I would actually have UCLA third in terms of who I would bet.
Ooh.
I would have Irvine 1, ASU 2, UCLA 3, Fresno 4.
I like it. I think you and I see eye to eye on how competitive that this regional is. And yeah, I circled UCLA Fresno State as like my 4 that might beat the 1. Yeah, Jack Anchor, the Bulldogs ace. His strikeout to walk ratio is insane. He's got 110 plus strikeouts and only 12 walks on the entire year.
What do you make?
It is an ERA mid-5s, but it was much better last year. Like he had a second year through in the Mountain West with scouting reports. So what were we going to say?
What do you make? Because they're going to play game 1. I don't know who would throw. I don't know if Moss would get the game 1 start or it'd be May or who would.
The way they've gone game 1s recently has been Ian May and then kind of bullpen-ish, like after the 4th inning. I think that they probably go Michael Barnett, which he was 8-0 to begin Big Ten starts and then kind of faded down the stretch. And that competition wasn't great that he faded against. So really interesting about Barnett. He did have a good start in the Big Ten tournament against Michigan. I can't remember who he threw against, but he did have a good Big Ten tournament start. But I think that Fresno's live in some form or fashion there. Arizona State's pitching depth has been like, I really disliked it the entire year. Their bullpen collapses a lot. I do think it's like in terms of strength, I think it's UCLA, UC Irvine, Arizona State, Fresno State, possibly UC Irvine over UCLA. But I'm revising that. UC Irvine, UCLA, Arizona State, Fresno State.
Let me ask you the question I was going to ask you. So UCLA is going to play Fresno game 1. What do you make that line? UCLA -300, -250?
What I would personally make it.
What do you know? Well, yes. Okay. What would you make it? And what do you think
the price that I would fire on Fresno is +240. So that's probably -320 for UCLA.
I think it could be flirting around a $3 favorite for UCLA. So that's probably going to make my card day 1 is Fresno State money line against UCLA.
1,000%. It should.
And listen, Jack Anchor hasn't been great this year in terms of the batting average against has been high. It's damn near 300. His BABIP is 382.
But you typically see that from the mid-major studs. Like, think of who is Nichols' ace? Myers, Jacob Myers. His second year was awful. Like, he turned into a bullpen guy. Look at Crest from Jacksonville.
Evan Crest,
absolute stud. His freshman year, he turned into like almost unpitchable his sophomore year in the mid-major ranks. So it's like if they're unable to, some freshmen are unable to endure that sophomore year when the scouting report gets better against them. But Anchor is going to be a transfer after this season. I'm not hearing any rumors. This isn't anything, but with that strikeout to walk ratio, he is transferring into a power conference school. Yeah. Remember that name.
Jen, his Sierra 252.
Oh yeah, I am aware.
But you're aware, but not everybody else. Sierra's 252 to a 5.72 ERA, which means he is pitching 3 runs better than what he's currently got on an ERA slate, roughly.
Add like a 1.5 to the Sierra, and that's the ERA. So he's got a 4 ERA compared to a 5.5. That's basically how that works. But yeah, I totally am in agreement with you there. And I was actually really surprised that we landed on that, but I'm happy we did. And we're seeing eye to eye with the Bulldogs, the Valley Dogs. Ole Miss, the Oxford Regional here, we were talking about the LA Regional being tough. I think the Oxford Regional is the strongest. I think it's one of the most balanced regionals too. You have a red hot Ole Miss team that played themselves into a 1 seed. I was hoping that they would be one of my favorite SEC 2 seeds to win a regional, but they're now hosting, which congratulations to the Rebs and their fan base. They'll see postseason baseball at Swayze. Georgia Tech is that 2 seed in the ACC that I kind of like, and I like their balance of pitching and hitting quite a bit. They're plus 180. Western Kentucky's got one of the best pitching staffs in the country, plus 400. And Murray State also very strong on the mound at 10-1. I think the odds board reflects how strong this region is, as Ole Miss isn't minus money, and your 4 seed's only 10-1. That's one of the shorter 4s that I've seen. Johnny, your thoughts? Do you agree with me on kind of the strength of this regional?
Yeah, I don't think it's up to the same level of competitive balance as the UCLA region, but this is one of the bigger spread out regions for sure. I'll put it this way. Georgia Tech, I didn't like all year. I didn't think Georgia Tech was that good. I think, them winning the ACC regular season was a product of they didn't beat a goddamn team. They didn't beat anybody. They were like West Virginia of the ACC. They had the easiest schedule you could possibly have in a power conference like that. Georgia Tech's biggest issue was never their offense. Their offense was always going to be good. We had the same conversation in our preseason show back in January or February, whatever it was. But their pitching was always going to be a question mark. Their starting pitching has been not good. Tate McKee was good to start the year. His ERA is north of 5. Brady Jones had 3 good starts in a row to end the year, and then he just collapses against Clemson in the ACC tournament. They don't have any legitimate bullpen arms outside of Mason Patel. I know Jaden Pavin has been pretty good as well, so I'll give that one too. They don't have enough arms in order to get this done. So I'm out on Georgia Tech. Western Kentucky, I mean, I wrote them up in the middle of the season on my Future Wednesday series for RotoWire as a team to make the College World Series at 15-1. Because at that time they were running away with the Conference USA. I think they had just beaten Dallas Baptist, like it was right in front of them.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Western Kentucky's live, man. I really do. Their pitching is great. They have the second best player in this conference in this region with Ryan Weidman. Their offense has been playing a lot better. I think some of the fundamentals, and they're a little sloppy. They've been sloppy, and they've had to rely on these late comebacks lately in order just to even get in the tournament. But the pitching they have is so dangerous. I think at plus 470, it's worth a little nibble. Because I think if Western Kentucky gets through, when you have the kind of arms they have, it is just it's more than a luxury. It's a huge advantage. Nevertheless, though, Ole Miss at home, playing red-hot baseball with Hunter Elliott, who's been dealing this last month. Some good bullpen arms. Mike Bianco with the pedigree have been there, done that. And their offense is hitting the shit out of the ball. Top 10 in homers this year. Ole Miss is almost even money on FanDuel in their own region. I think I got a fire on that with a taste of Western Kentucky.
So the Tops offense, I don't know if it's good enough. I am with you that their pitching their staff is a luxury. They have 12 arms, sub 4.20 ERA. Incredible. Incredible collection of pitchers. But I come down to Ole Miss, Georgia Tech in this regional. I like both teams a lot. Ole Miss, I think, has a very good mix of experienced players. They have a lot of seniors on that group, and that's probably where I'm going to land. I mean, that entire rotation is seniors that were freshmen on the national championship team. I like Ole Miss. Georgia Tech is the emotional play where I think they're pissed off. One, if you saw that video of them getting their name announced.
Drew Barros was live.
Yeah. No. Drew Burris, he clapped once and then just put it to the side because nobody else was clapping. There was another guy in the front row who started clapping and looked around and was like, oh shit, I fucked up. But they were not happy that they were not hosting. I think they're going to come out pretty pissed off. Ole Miss kind of in the way. Yeah, I mean, I think they're still, they played a weak schedule. I totally get it. I still think they're a plenty enough talented team. That offense is loaded, and I think the pitching staff's good enough. I think Ole Miss pitching staff is better, and the offense is very good. So that's kind of my read on that regional for right now before I do more research into it. That regional's paired up with the Athens regional for the Super, and Georgia to get out of the Athens regional is minus 220. Duke is plus 300. Oklahoma State is plus 600, and Binghamton is 60-1. My initial takeaway from this regional is you have 3 power conference teams in the Athens regional. This one's probably going to end on, or not end on, it'll probably be programmed on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, one of those 3 networks because of the power conference teams. That's my take.
FanDuel, again, shop around. I don't have DraftKings in front of me. They have not given out the region prices in my state, so it's a little fucking disappointing that I can't compare notes. So right now I really have just FanDuel and Bet Rivers up. I think Bet365 may have something. I haven't checked there yet. But Georgia's minus 310 here. Duke's plus 310. OK State's 10-1. And Binghamton is 40-1. Are you ready for this take here, Noah?
Give me the take.
Give me the motherfucking Oklahoma State Cowboys at 10-1 right here. But hear me out. Hear me out. I understand just the complete buffoonery that Oklahoma State has done this year. A very high variance team. Yes, very low floor, I'll give you that. Very high ceiling.
Yeah, buffoonery is a bit harsh, but yeah,
it's true,
inconsistent.
Sometimes the truth hurts. Second half of the year, this team was dead. They were dead and buried, 9 toes in the grave. They had like 6 wins in the Big 12. There was almost no way they were going to get in. They picked themselves up by the bootstraps, and they went on a run in the second half, just running through everybody. Got themselves in. They won a game in the Big 12 tournament, and it wasn't even close. They were in. And you know what? Let's give them a round of applause because that's impressive. That really is. I mean that. But their pitching in the starting rotation is the best in this region. Harrison Bodendorf's been a dog all year. Mario Pesce has been great in the second half. Sean Youngerman is a very strong Sunday guy. Hunter Watkins in the pen. Gabe Davis, Ryan Urey, they have some real high-octane arms in the bullpen. Their offense should have been a lot better this year. They have too much swing and miss, but they have a ton of power. And they got our boy Nolan Schubart. When he's hot, he can carry this entire team. So I like Oklahoma State for the simple fact that their pitching is the advantage here. And you're getting 10-1 on them. I mean, let's be real. Georgia is the best team in this region, but their lack of pitching is a problem. The only guy that you can probably count on from them is Brian Curley. And that's not really enough. Even if he throws great, I don't think it's enough. So Oklahoma State being 10-1 is ridiculous. So let's say Oklahoma State beats Duke and Georgia beats Binghamton. For the 1-0 game, the Pokes play the Dogs. This kind of price is saying Georgia's going to be a huge favorite, which just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. So Oklahoma State, in my opinion, should be closer to that 3-1 price where Duke is. Because I know Duke can't be slept on either. I just think eventually their lack of having a legitimate starter, a legitimate ace, is going to hurt them here. So give me the Cowboys with their pitching. 10-1.
I think it's a great look because it is a strong pitching staff. I just think that offense is pitiful outside of Schubert and Brueggemann.
Colin Ritchie, bitch.
Sure. Throw him in the bunch. It's just 3 bats. They were the 13th worst batting average in the Big 12.
I get it, man, but that's when you get I get it, but that's why I said they're not the best team in this region, but they're the highest variance. One thing about the high variance teams, when it clicks for them, they're very dangerous.
And when you kind of live in the books and you're looking at the numbers, like I can kind of recite them just off the top of my head and not even really look. It can be dangerous, especially with teams that play at elevation and teams that play in dry air, like Oklahoma State. But usually you see it in pro offensive numbers and negative pitching numbers. And Oklahoma State's the exact opposite. It's a very strong offensive staff that played in a very offensive ballpark. And it's a very poor offense that played in a very offensive ballpark. So like you stick them in fully without the dry air, but I do like the short right field porch for the 2 big left-handed boppers in Oklahoma State's lineup in Schubert and Brueggemann. They got a shot, and at 10-1, you have to take it. So I do think that's a great look, Johnny. And honestly, out of everything that we've given out on the show, that's probably the one that I'm going to run over before I even do any more research. Oklahoma State 10-1 is probably my favorite that we've talked about.
Because I mean, the thing is, think about it. What are you going to do if you like Georgia? Which, listen, truth is, Georgia probably ends up winning this region, but you're not going to bet on them at a $3 favorite. I mean, BetRivers is the only place you could parlay them. I mean, the other alternative is just to not bet it at all, or just wait until you're actually in region and betting game by game. So, I mean, listen, I completely understand it. It's worth a look. I think when you have 3 legitimate pitchers. And
it's very rare.
It's so rare. I mean, there's maybe 8 or 9 teams that have 3 legitimate weekend pitchers this year.
Yep.
And Oklahoma State looks to be one of them.
Look, I agree with you in the overall take that I think Georgia probably wins the regional. But at that price at 10-1, you can't pass up.
Yeah.
Pass up on the Pokes. Especially in this ballpark where it's 315 down the right field line. Yeah. And they have 2 left-handed power hitters that make up most of their offense. So yeah, I mean, the more we talk about it, the more I'm getting talked into that play. Great look, John.
Grazie.
Johnny V Television, bringing the goods. The Baton Rouge regional, Johnny, man, this is the softest regional, in my opinion. LSU should be able to take care of business here. They are minus 300. That is the largest regional favorite. Dallas Baptist is plus 250 as the 2 seed. Your 3 seed is 18-1. And the 4 seed is 100-1.
I don't know.
The 3 is the Rams out of Rhode Island, and then Little Rock is the 4 seed. Tell me why. I don't want to hear why LSU is winning the regional. How do they lose it, Johnny?
Well, by the way, Rhode Island is 31-1, and Arkansas Little Rock is 40-1. So again, check your books, check your prices, because they're going to vary because this is a very niche market, and it only happens one time a year, so it's always going to change. How LSU loses is simple. They take this regional too lightly. Their offense doesn't hit. It's a problem. And LSU's offense is it's not up to the level that we've seen in years past. That like this is still a good offense. It's a 90-plus home run offense. I think their average is flirting around 300. They have some legitimate bats in this lineup with Bear Jones, Derek Curiel, Danny Dickinson, and several other guys. But it's lacked like this consistency and this oomph all year long. And they've gone on these little spurts where they just can't score. That's how they would not win this region. Because otherwise, I mean, Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson are the best 1-2 punch in all of college baseball. It's not even close. There's no other team that's even.
It really isn't.
There's no team that's even in their conversation in terms of 1-2 punch. But Cade Anderson's leading the country with 145 Ks. Ianson's got 125. Ianson, and you can make a case Ianson's been even better than Cade Anderson. He's got a 2.7 ERA for Christ's sakes. So the fact is, as long as LSU doesn't like dick around too much, and they get up on Arkansas Little Rock, let Cade Anderson rip, and then probably face Dallas Bombers in the next game with Ianson throwing. I think DBU is interesting because, like, on paper, they have good pitchers. They have James Ellwanger, who's really strong. I don't know if Ryan Schweed's still in the rotation. He was their Sunday guy.
Yeah, he's kind of spotty whether he goes or not. I think they play the matchups with him a little bit.
Micah Buckham has pretty much been their Friday guy. They don't have a bullpen either. And like their offense is good, but DBU's kind of been in that boat this year where they're good, but we've seen this program field much better teams the past couple of years than what they've shown. And it's not a slight, it's just a testament to how good this program usually is. So I think DBU is an interesting look, especially because they have Rhode Island game 1. But, as long as LSU doesn't, dick around, I think they're going to get this one.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, I don't think that the DBU's pitching staff is as strong as it's been in years past. After all, they did drop 2 games to Jacksonville State in the same day. That's science for concern to me. I think it's LSU's a regional lose. And I agree with you that the way that they do lose it is if that offense doesn't show up to play, because it's not been inconsistent. It hasn't been that bad, but there has been some games where it's like lifeless. Like I look at the Tennessee series where it looked like that for 2 games, and then they miraculously came back in both in the late innings. And there's multiple occasions throughout the year. I mean, even in the SEC tournament where they were shut out by Ole Miss. That is the one hole, is that they don't always show up to the ballpark every day, I guess. I don't know how else to phrase that, but I agree with you.
It's weird. It's hard. It's honestly hard to quantify because
it is.
I mean, you look at their metrics.
Are you nervous about a game 3 starter at all? Because they don't have a stamped one, but they have enough talent to where I think they would be able to get by.
Are we talking about for the region or for Omaha?
For the regional. For super regional, they should be good. And in Omaha, they should be good because you get the days off and the breaks.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm concerned. It's something that I'd look at because Chase Shores, obviously, at least you know me, I had a ton of expectations. I had Chase Shores as a potential dark horse 1-1 candidate. Unfortunately, the first year back from Tommy John has been a little challenging for him. But, he's been really good lately in the bullpen. And I think at least for this year, it's the right role for him, especially as they get further along where, hey, he's a guy that can go 1 to 3 innings. He can go a little bit more max effort. I mean, we saw him get up to 102 the other day, as opposed to having to conserve energy. The game 3, like Casey Evans is really talented. So I think they just got to find a guy that maybe can open for them. Maybe just go out there, give him 3-4 innings, and then try to piece it together because this team is 8 arms deep. So they do have a way to figure it out. For the regions, I'm not concerned for this region. It's more the offense that gives me any potential reason to get worried.
All right. Sounds good. And their super regional partner, I actually think it's an outstanding draw for LSU all the way to Omaha, is the Clemson regional. Right now, Clemson is plus 135. West Virginia is plus 250. Kentucky plus 300. And USC Upstate's plus 550. So here's my read on the regional. I'll lead. I think the Spartans are a quality 4 seed. I think that even if Aiden Canuck goes, like he hasn't been extremely sharp this year, Upstate could threaten. I don't see them being as much of a threat as I think Fresno State can be to UCLA in that first game. But USC Upstate's going to be frisky in this regional. Don't count them out. Kentucky and Clemson have very similar identities to me. Clemson's got an ace, or at least a number one that they feel really good about. Kentucky doesn't. But both teams are what I would say take advantage of other teams' mistakes, are fundamentally sound on the defensive side of the field, and they run the base paths aggressively. Clemson's got a little bit more power. Clemson's more likely to be the team that's going to put up 6 runs in an inning rather than Kentucky, where they're going to scratch across 1 or 2. That's kind of their source of offense. And then West Virginia, to me, I think has the best overall pitching staff in this regional. I think they go 6 or 7 arms deep. I think they've got the best rotation, like a solidified rotation. Clemson and Kentucky, I don't know if they've got 3 arms that they feel comfortable in. And I think that West Virginia is going to be all right offensively in this regional. I think it's going to be a lower scoring regional. I like the Mountaineers at plus 250 right now on DraftKings. I don't know if I read off the odds, but Clemson's plus 135, West Virginia's plus 250, Kentucky plus 300, and Upstate has the shortest 4-seed odds out there, plus 550.
750 on FanDuel. That's kind of crazy. I can't believe how much respect the book's giving Upstate. I didn't think they'd really catch on to that one. Upstate's live here. I think, Scott Campbell has been unbelievable this year. Batted 400, 11 homers, 21 bags. They have some real talent. And
good story, too.
Yeah, I would not be sleeping on USC Upstate. I think Clemson, it's hard for me to say, right? Because, again, Clemson, preseason Omaha 8 team for me. And I've really fallen out of love with them these last few weeks. But I hate to jump ship. Clemson with Aiden Canuck at home in a regional, like the Tigers always seem to show up in playoff baseball. They always do. West Virginia, I think top to bottom probably has the best roster. I think they're probably the most complete team in this whole region. But I don't know if I just don't trust West Virginia. They haven't beaten a good team all year. They haven't beaten one legitimate team the entire season. And now you're going to go into one of the most hostile environments at Clemson and get a win. Kentucky, I don't like. I don't think Kentucky's a good team. I hate their program. I hate their coach. I hate the way they play baseball. But that aside, I just don't think they have the pitching to get that done. I think they could make it tough on West Virginia, though. I'm going to go with Clemson.
Who do you think they throw?
Who?
Against Kentucky against WV.
They've been mixing it up. Do
They
they go Nick McKay?
I think that's their arm that they're most confident in. Ben Cleaver has been the Sunday, the game 3 guy that they also the fans love him the most. But yeah, Nick McKay can be nasty. I watched him actually pitch really good, I thought, against Texas. But yeah, I don't know if they're good enough on the mound.
I'm going to go Clemson. I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction. It's their region. They always play well in their region. I doubted them last year. I took Coastal or Vanderbilt. I don't remember which one in that region down in Clemson last year, and Tigers ran through it. I think they find a way here, and you're getting plus money with them. I understand this is a 1 through 4 wide open region, but I'm going to go with the home team on this one.
All right.
On a scale on a scale of 1 to 10, confidence-wise, I'd probably say 6.5. Okay. So it's not like a slam dunk for me.
All right. That makes sense. I would probably put West Virginia at a 4. And I'd probably put Clemson at a 4, Upstate at a 1, and Kentucky at a 1. That would probably be how I formulate this. And I think the odds board, reflects kind of Yeah, it reflects that pretty dang well there. Let's talk about the Knoxville regional because I also have a hot take here, John.
The which one?
Mr. Venezia. The Knoxville regional, the 1 seed is Tennessee. They're minus 225. Wake Forest is plus 300. Cincinnati's plus 750. And Miami, Ohio is 20-1. Can you guess where I'm going to be if I'm hot in this regional?
Cincinnati, 850.
Dude, I think it's a dream draw. They create havoc on the base pass, and 1, they steal. 2, they're going to put the ball in play by either bunting or like not striking out. They just don't strike out offensively. And that's what both Tennessee staff and Wake Forest staff are like curated to do, is get the strikeout. Both of them kind of struggle with walks, which is why I think like if Cincinnati gets on base and they put pressure on the defenses, which we've seen Tennessee's defense have some holes recently. I think there's talent defensively there, but the fielding percentage isn't great. Wake Forest is really bad defensively, like not great at all. I think Cincinnati can really put pressure on both defenses, steal some bags, manufacture some runs in this regional. With Nathan Taylor going on game 1 against Wake Forest, I think they might be able to squeeze by. And then, Tennessee, that would be Marcus Phillips, the one who has the biggest, hole of like delivery to the plate, and that's where everybody's stealing against. I think it sets up perfectly for Cincinnati. Miami, Ohio is definitely a quality offense. I don't know if they've got enough pitching at 20-1 to be frisky enough. Tennessee at minus 225, man, I don't want any of that.
I completely understand. I think Cincinnati is live here as well. 850 is a good price on FanDuel. I will be taking a piece of Cincinnati. I think that number's too big, and I agree with you. Especially, it's not just because Tennessee's been vulnerable this year. It's because Cincinnati matches up really well with them if they get them to that Saturday game, that 1-0 matchup. As you said, Marcus Phillips overall really hasn't been that good in the second half of the year. He's been very shaky. I mean, he had a really good start against I think it was Alabama on Wednesday of the tournament, SEC tournament, and then he just completely imploded. He's also been terrible against the run. I think he's given up the most steals. Nathan Taylor's been great this year. Here's the one issue I have with Cincinnati. They're going to be playing up in competition. They're going to be playing a better team. We've seen them kind of have these implosions. They did it against TCU. They were live to sweep TCU second to last week of the season, and they couldn't hold on to a goddamn lead. I think
they also lost game 1 there, like because they blew a lead, but it was high scoring. It was like 16-11.
Listen, they're 100% live. I mean, their offense is pretty good. Like you said, they don't strike out a ton. They steal a fuck ton of bags. 128 on the year. They have the Big 12 Player of the Year in Carrington Cross, who's been a dog, 12 bops, 399 average, 15 bags. The pitching is something that I am a touch concerned about because here's what's going to happen. You're going to throw Nathan Taylor game 1 against Wake Forest. Rocking Wake Forest today. But I don't believe in them. I needed a shirt, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna throw the Wake shirt on.
That's so funny.
So they're gonna burn Nathan Fisher in our comments since Cincinnati's plus 1K on 365. That's a good look, Nathan. Appreciate it. Nathan Taylor is going to be burned against Wake Forest game 1, which means they're going to have to go with maybe Kellen O'Connor in game 2. He's been a little bit rough this year. 4.68 ERA, doesn't strike a lot of guys out. 56 strikeouts to 20 walks in 65 1/3 innings. But the big bugaboo has been the long ball, and they're going to be playing in a bandbox in Knoxville. He's given up 14 homers this year. So that's really where the concern is. Tennessee was, again, a preseason Omaha 18 for me. I want to stick with that. And the truth is, despite how bad they've been playing in the second half of the year, I got to learn. We got to make sure we're understanding that we don't bet against a Tony V led team. Tony V in the playoffs, man. I understand the hesitancy. I'm going to take the ticket on Cincinnati, but I expect the Vols to win this region.
I muted myself, but it's totally fair. I just at minus 225, I have no action on the Vols and no interest there. And that's kind of where I always get wrong in brackets is once I commit to a team and it's mainly on price, my mind about not picking them to win a regional on my bracket, and I always get too cute. But I'd rather be too cute than be too chalk. That's just how I roll.
Every year you get anywhere from like, I would say every year you get anywhere from like 3 to 6 non-1 seeds win a region. You always get that. You always get that mix of 2 or 3s and an occasional 4 that can steal a region.
The final regional here, the super regional pairing with Knoxville is Fayetteville. Man, oh man, a super, if chalk holds, of Arkansas and Tennessee would be very, very fun. In a rematch of a series that we saw just 2 weeks ago that was highly contested. Arkansas is minus 450 here. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that price because I think Kansas is good. I think they're a quality offense. I think Creighton's all right at 10-1. North Dakota State at 100-1 on DraftKings. Johnny, do you kind of agree with how the odds lay out in Fayetteville?
Well, goddamn, dude, if you don't agree with Arkansas being minus 400, I got a bridge to sell you because they're minus 700 on FanDuel.
Holy shit.
So, listen, again, Arkansas is probably going to win the region, but it's no gimme. I mean, all this talk this year, Arkansas is the best roster in college baseball. They seem to be the most complete team. But when in reality, there is something missing from this team, in my opinion. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. They just don't seem to have it. They've lost a lot of series to the top teams in the country this year. The big win, the sweep at Vandy looks a lot better now than it did at the time, because at the time Vandy was very questionable, and they swept Texas. Those are like their 2 big wins. I think they beat Tennessee too, but Tennessee last week wasn't looking good. And I like Kansas here. I think I'm going to take Kansas. We got a comment there. It's 10-1. It's 7-1 on FanDuel. I think Kansas is live, man. It's not just the fact that Arkansas doesn't have it, in my opinion, but they've struggled each of the last 2 years in their own region. They can't get out of their own region.
They pucker up in the postseason.
So who's to say they don't do it again? I mean, they have a better team than they did last year, and they have probably a better team than they did 2 years ago. But, I don't know if I trust their starting rotation. Zach Root, in my opinion, is not a legitimate SEC Friday guy. He's good, but he's not Hagen Smith. Gage Wood is talented, but I don't know if I rely on him in a NCAA tournament format. Landon Beidelshees, you have to remind me if he got bumped from the Sunday roll or if he got hurt. But
he's been consistently game 3. They moved him out one game. I think it was due to his back, like a back spasm or something.
Okay, that's what it was. I think this is a Kansas spot here. Kansas's offense is pretty good. Don Vagley has had a pretty solid year. I know he's had some blow-ups that kind of inflated his ERA. Cooper Moore has had a good year. They have a couple good bullpen arms. And they don't have a brutal Friday game. Creighton's not a brutal matchup for Kansas. I agree. That's one where they can win that and not expend.
But I do think Creighton's a quality club. They're not sexy. Is that right? I respect Creighton. Yeah, I think that if they were to be a regional finalist here, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. Am I going to pick that to happen? No.
Definitely possible, but Arkansas probably wins. But aside from it being unbettable, I think Kansas is more than live. You're getting 7-1 or 10-1, depending on where you're at. This is definitely a bet to make for the Jayhawks.
Yep. And I hope everybody enjoyed that. That went longer than I thought it was going to be, but we're going to have it timestamped. So I hope that makes up for everybody that's listening right now. The way that the schedule is currently going to be for us this NCAA tournament, we're looking at, what we did today. Wednesday, we're going to do bracket picks and futures. And Thursday, it will be game 1 picks. So make sure you stay tuned, hit that alerts bell, and make sure you're paying attention to that inbox because we're going to be peppering it all week. You can enter our bracket pool. We're going to have a college baseball bracket pool for SGPN and the college experience. The winner gets a $250 SGPN store gift card. Click the link in the description of the YouTube or Spotify episode. It's not made yet, but it will be there by the time that you're listening to this. And Johnny, go ahead and plug anything else that you have planned for postseason prep and or postseason.
Yeah, so obviously you can follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV. Got my podcast Breaking Bet. I'm going to be back in the lab on that one this week. We're getting into some good stuff regarding the regionals and the tournament overall. And I'm on my RotoWire column where I'm giving out a ton of picks. I got a column dropping tomorrow highlighting some of the stuff that we talked about tonight. And I'm going to be putting out articles all week, the whole month of June. So definitely feel free to check it out. It's free. And we get some good shit, man. We get a lot of good stuff.
Let's go. You can follow me on Twitter at NoahB77_. It's actually the same handle for all social media. You can follow the show at TCE on SGPN. This has been the College Baseball Experience. Thank you all for tuning in. You better start thinking about your experience. And we are out of here.